Up next, we are very privileged today to have somebody here from another state. He's our keynote speaker, and he's from the Oath Keepers. His name is Stewart Rhodes.
Governors of Connecticut, you are in the first wave at Normandy Beach. In this current battle for our republic, your grandfathers and your fathers fought the external enemies of the republic and kicked their butts. But then they came home, and sadly they did not pay enough attention to the domestic enemies of this republic. Not long ago I had the privilege of escorting a World War II combat vet on an honor flight. Paratrooper had done 3 combat jumps in the Philippines and liberated a prison camp where the Japanese were going to kill all the prisoners, including women and children. And he parachuted in with his buddies behind enemy lines and rescued every one of them. He's a true hero. But on the Washington Mall and at the memorial for World War II, he broke down in tears. And he was crying for his lost brothers, but he was also crying for his country. And he said, what's so sad is, as we came home and we thought we were safe because we had gone out there and sought out the enemy and hunted him down and killed him. But we did not pay enough attention to the domestic enemies here at home. And he had a lot of regret that they had dropped the ball when they got back. And every one of us since then has dropped the ball. We wouldn't be here today if that weren't true, right? Right. We need to recognize our own responsibility, the fact that we have not defended this Constitution and this Republic enough to prevent what's happening right now. The Marxists who are killing our country from the inside think they've got us in a checkmate position. They have done the long march through the institutions. They've taken over academia. They've taken over the media. They've taken over Washington, D.C. With very few exceptions in both parties, it's infested with oath breakers. Am I right? Right. You got Republicans like Peter King from New York, a supposed conservative, championing, favoring the assault weapons ban. You've got rollover quislings in the Republican Party compromising your rights away. Do they have any right or authority to give away some of your liberty and some of your rights? No! They have no authority. You have no authority to give away your natural rights either. And you have no authority, and they have no authority to desecrate the graves of our war dead by destroying what they swore an oath to defend and what they died to defend. If you don't stand now and defend this republic, this is like the last trench back. We can't back up anymore. Our heels are over the cliff, and they're still pushing. We gotta lean forward and push back. There's no way out but through them. You need to have the same resolve that the men on Iwo Jima had. My father-in-law fought on Iwo Jima. At the age of 15, you know the story is going to be sound familiar to you. You just heard one just like it. He lied about his age at the age of 15 and joined the Marine Corps. His enlistment date was December the 10th, 1941, 3 days after Pearl Harbor. And he fought all the way across the Pacific, including at Iwo Jima. Do not let what he went through, no boy should ever experience what he saw, but it was worth it to him. Do not let that be in vain. Yesterday we were on Lexington Green and renewed our oaths. We honored the fallen, the men who stood with Captain Parker on that green. What did Captain Parker tell his men? What did he say? Stand your ground. That's what you gotta do. Do not fire unless fired upon. Make them come to you. Make them show their true colors. But if they mean to have a war, then let it begin right here. And I've heard some people say, our only salvation is the courts. We gotta go to the courts. We gotta keep fighting in the courts and in politics. The Supreme Court already betrayed you in the Heller decision. How many here believe that Heller decision was a victory? Raise your hands. You know it was a tiny fragment of a victory. They recognized an individual right, but then they also said, nothing herein shall call into question any of the unconstitutional, treasonous laws that are already in existence. All these prohibitions of what kinds of guns you can have, how many magazines you can have, how many rounds in the magazine, whether you have a bayonet lug. The court said, oh, that's okay. That's why you're where you are today. That's why Obama can say, oh, I support the Second Amendment, because his interpretation of the Second Amendment, just like with the Heller court, is that short of an absolute ban, as long as they let you have a .22 or a single-shot shotgun, they can claim they're not violating the Second Amendment, that only a ban's unconstitutional. Do you believe that? No! What is the purpose of the Second Amendment? Is it about hunting? No! Is it just about personal defense against a street criminal? No! Is the Vice President correct that all you need is a double-barrel shotgun? No! Or a revolver? No! It is about the military capacity of the American people. It's about the military capacity of you to be the militia, which is what? What the Second Amendment says the militia is. It's necessary, right? It is necessary to the security of a free state. You will not be secure and you will not be free unless the military power of this nation is in your hands. Hell yeah! And that's why whenever they try to tell you that you don't need an AR-15 or an AK-47 or an M1A or a FAL, you don't need those weapons of war, the answer should be not to explain why you use it for hunting or why it's a sporting rifle. That's a weak argument. You stand on the bedrock of the founders' intent, you tell them that's right. It is a weapon of war, and it's supposed to be in my hands. We are supposed to have the same military capacity as any infantry squad, any infantry platoon. Because otherwise, how can you do the three things the militia is supposed to do? Under the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, what can Congress call forth the militia to do? What's one of them? Repel invasions. What's the other one? You don't know your own Constitution. What is it? No. Repel invasions, suppress insurrections, including in Washington, D.C. and here, and execute the laws of the Union. How are you going to repel an invasion against infantry from a foreign nation coming in if you don't have modern infantry weapons? How are you going to suppress an insurrection or execute the laws of the Union? You are supposed to have the same military capacity as modern infantry. That's the point. That's why you should have an AR or an M1A or whatever the latest, greatest, best battle rifle there is. Do not apologize for it. Now, a lot of folks say the Second Amendment is about a last resort to be able to fight tyranny. That's true. But before that, how do you prevent that from happening in the first place? If you are the militia, you are the domestic security force of this nation, you don't need a DHS. You don't need a large standing army over you. You don't need permanently federalized SWAT teams in your state that work with the feds. If you are the security, you occupy that space. You don't create a vacuum of weakness that they fill from the top down. You have to take your responsibilities back in hand. How many of you are the militia right now? Good trick question, right? You are the militia, but do you drill and do you train? All you veterans, raise your hand if you're a veteran. You swore that oath. When does that oath expire? As long as you're on this side of the grass, you have a duty and responsibility to defend the Constitution. It's not just waiting for the day to go grab your rifle out of the closet. It means right now. You should be the security force of your town. You should be the posses for your sheriffs. You should be the security force for your county, and that means the militia of your county. Get up, organize, and be that security force so you don't need outside help. That's the genius of the founders. Their answer to that ancient question of who shall guard the guardians is that you are your own guardians. You don't need a professional warrior class of a standing army. Now, I served as a U.S. Army paratrooper. I'm very proud of my service. I come from a long line of military service. But the founders were correct. You, the people, are the only domestic security force in this nation. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say jack about the standing army being used here at home. It's the militia's responsibility, your duty. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say anything about a DHS. It's you that's supposed to secure this country and execute the laws of the Union. And why? Because if the president wants to enforce some federal law upon you, he's supposed to have to rely upon you to enforce it. How can he make you enforce an unconstitutional law if you say no? If you are the militia, he can't do it. So we got to get rid of DHS and recognize that the constitutional homeland security is you, the people, as the militia. Now, Oath Keepers, our mission is to reach out to the current serving, remind them of their oaths, because the oath-breaking traitors cannot do it without them. But also, you veterans have a duty to defend the Constitution, and we'd like to offer the opportunity for you to step up today if you'd like to, and to renew your oaths. Now, we don't make this stuff up. The founding generation did the same thing. Back in 1798, the militia of Massachusetts stood on Lexington Green, and they renewed their oaths. Many of them had fought April 19, 1775. Others among them were their sons. They thought it was important enough. They had already sworn an oath to defend the Constitution, but they thought it was important enough to go back there and do it again on that sacred spot. That's why we do it. That's why we renew our oaths. You need to recommit your devotion to your country. You need to understand that you have the same obligation and duty to step up that the men on Normandy Beach had, the men on Iwo Jima, all the way from Lexington Green, through Concord Bridge, through the Battle Road back to Boston and Bunker Hill, all the way through Yorktown, all the way through every war we've ever had, through Iwo Jima, through the sands of Normandy, all the way to Iraq and Afghanistan today is an unbroken chain of guardians of the Republic, of warriors for the Republic. Every one of you is now the point man. Every one of you is now your watch. You got to have the same resolve they did. If they were willing to fight and die to preserve this Constitution, you better be also. So we're going to have a retired state trooper from Connecticut, retired state trooper Jim Blider is going to come up and do an oath ceremony. But I do not want you to raise your right hand unless you have the same commitment that our warriors did. If you've never sworn an oath before, you want to join in, you're welcome to join, but don't do it unless you're going to take it as seriously as those of us who served the military and police. Okay? So in closing, I just want to say that you are at the tip of the spear. That's right.